The rain hammered against the packed windshield, blurring the already indistinct outline of Blackwood Estate looming ahead. Elias Thorne gripped the steering wheel, the scent of damp wool and stale cigarette smoke clinging to his coat. Silas Blackwood's summons had been unusual. Disturbances, the man had called them. Things moving. Whispers. It sounded like the ravings of a nervous old man, but the retainer had been substantial, and Thorne was a retriever of lost things, regardless of how ludicrous the plea. "Are you certain this is the correct address, Mr. Thorne?" The voice was dry, brittle, and came from the passenger seat. It belonged to Arthur Blackwood, Silas's nephew, a man who seemed to find the entire situation a source of morbid amusement. "The address matches the one provided," Thorne replied, his gaze fixed on the road, "though I confess, I've seen more inviting invitations." The gates, wrought iron and choked with ivy, groaned open as they approached, revealing a long, overgrown drive leading to the estate. The house itself was a monument to faded grandeur, its stone walls darkened by centuries of rain and neglect. Several windows were boarded up, lending the building an almost skeletal appearance. Mr. Abernathy, the butler, greeted them at the massive front doors. He was a gaunt figure, his eyes darting nervously as he ushered them into a cavernous hallway. The air inside was thick with the scent of dust and decay, and a profound silence pressed down on them. "Mr. Blackwood is waiting for you in the library," Abernathy murmured, his voice barely audible. "Please, try not to disturb anything." The library was the heart of the estate, a vast, book-lined chamber that seemed to absorb the light. Silas Blackwood, a man who appeared to have aged a decade in the past few weeks, stood before a massive fireplace, his face pale and drawn. Eleanor, his daughter, huddled near him, her eyes wide with a haunting sadness. "Mr. Thorne," Blackwood said, his voice raspy, "I'm glad you could come. Things have become quite unsettling." "I understand you are experiencing some disturbances," Thorne said, his voice calm and professional. "Please, elaborate." Blackwood began to describe the events that had plagued the estate. Objects moving on their own, whispers in the dead of night, a growing sense of dread that seemed to permeate every corner of the house. Eleanor confirmed his account, her voice trembling as she recounted her own nightmares. "It started subtly," Blackwood continued. "A misplaced book, a creaking door. Then it escalated. Things began to shift. Shadows moved independently. Voices echoed when no one was there." "And the mirror?" Thorne prompted, remembering Blackwood's initial, cryptic message. Blackwood swallowed hard, his eyes filled with a disturbing mixture of fear and fascination. "The mirror that is the source of the most significant trouble." He led them to a far corner of the library, where a massive, ornate mirror stood propped against the wall. It wasn't the reflection that was unsettling, it was the mirror itself. The glass seemed to shimmer with an unnatural depth, as if it held a gateway to another world. "This mirror has been in my family for generations," Blackwood explained. "My grandfather acquired it on an expedition to Pard. He claimed it was an artifact of immense power, a conduit to other realms." "And you believe these disturbances are connected to the mirror?" Thorne asked, carefully observing the artifact. "I'm certain of it," Blackwood replied. "The incident began shortly after I had it cleaned. I foolishly dismissed the warnings of its previous owners. They said it should never be disturbed." Suddenly, a cold gust of wind swept through the library, extinguishing the fire in the hearth. The room plunged into near darkness, and the low, guttural whisper seemed to echo from the mirror's surface. Eleanor screamed, burying her face in her father's shoulder. Arthur, ever the cynic, let out a nervous chuckle. "Sounds like someone's indulging in a bit of theatricality." Thorne ignored him, his eyes fixed on the mirror. He sensed something ancient and malevolent emanating from its depths. It wasn't just a mirror, it was a window, a portal to something else. He reached out, hesitantly touching the surface of the glass. As his fingers made contact, a jolt of icy energy surged through his body, and a fleeting image flashed before his eyes, a landscape of twisted trees and crimson skies, populated by shadowy figures that seemed to writhe in silent torment. He recoiled, shaking off the sensation. "This isn't just a matter of moving objects and whispers," he said, his voice low and serious. "This is something far more serious. This mirror isn't just reflecting images, it's drawing them in." "What do you mean?" Blackwood asked, his voice trembling. "I mean," Thorne replied, his gaze fixed on the mirror's surface, "we have a problem. A very old, very dangerous problem." He noticed a flicker, a distorted reflection that wasn't his own. A shadow moved behind him, and he wasn't sure it was real. "We need to seal this mirror, and we need to do it quickly." The reflection in the mirror grinned, a chilling, unnatural grin. He found a faint, almost invisible mark near the base of the mirror. It wasn't a scratch. It was a symbol, ancient and obscure. "This symbol," Thorne said, pointing to the mark. "This is the key." equals tags 1940, horror ancient evil cosmic horror curse artifacts stock fantasy forbidden knowledge ghost stories gothic atmosphere gothic horror graveyard tales haunted tales horror fiction mad science occult mystery psychological horror spectral encounters supernatural revenge supernatural terror weird tales